Hello, dear viewer. This is a section of a conversation I had with Prajin Sheen, where we spoke all about kind of agile and implementing agile into their workflow. Gosh, I look like an angel right now. We got into a bit more of the technical stuff around how to use WordPress themes with GitHub properly, or Git, whatever you're using, and we get into the technical nitty gritty, which I didn't think felt like it belonged with an agile discussion. So I've edited it down, I've cut it out, and then this is that video. So if you are doing WordPress websites and need a more efficient way of managing it in Git, because you should not be uploading WordPress to Git. I'll say no more. Then listen on in, and here, without further ado, here is Prajin Sheen and myself talking tech. You mentioned as well around GitHub. What was your ponderings around that?
Yeah, so it was really more of so let's focus on WordPress, for example. So how do you best maintain your version history? Let's say there plausibly are 2 to 3 developers on one project. What is your process of actually making sure that, hey, we have the master branch, we have dev 1 and 2. How are you documenting every change? What is the best practice for this? And so how often are we pushing? Is it every change? A bit of context on what other teams are doing.
Okay, cool. First of all, before I answer it, is there any particular kind of issues that you're encountering, or are you just curious?
A bit of both. I mean, 6 months ago, so we're fairly new, but like 6 months ago, there was no version control at all. We just had a dev site and a live site, and we just pushed everything we had on our dev site to our live site. Now we want to document every component, every change. So then it's how do we document changes, and I think that's where I really want to be at a consistent. Like I want it to be consistent. Hey. Function in WP, PHP functions have been changed. This is what it's changed, and this is what was changed. So is that the correct approach? What's your commenting system? And it seems trivial now, but when projects get larger, I think documentation is key, especially when multiple people are working on it. Because I've had developers sick for a week, people get COVID, and when someone needs to pick up a project, they need to know, hey, when this was added to the branch, what changed? How did it change? How does it affect the rest of the system? So that's really my main concern. It's more of like, while scaling, I want to make sure that we're doing it right.
Yeah. Okay, that makes perfect sense. I think you're absolutely right. When a project gets bigger and the hit by a bus analogy becomes very real, documentation is very powerful. I mean, just to draw it back to our conversation about agile, part of your definition of done, it's documentation written, and how you go about that. Again, it's unique to your team, but what makes the most sense to me is that you have comments and whatever in your code, that your code is clean. I'm not sure whether you guys have read Clean Code. It's a book that describes a lot around good practices around what makes code clean, and that's functions that are written in plain English as opposed to, or variables that are written in plain English as opposed to being really obscure or abbreviated. Just make it plain and simple, various things like that. But so absolutely, like documentation, there are platforms, there are frameworks that can generate your documentation by looking at the comments of your code. So it generates a separate website that has everything documented.
Like the MD files.
I don't. No, because it's part of your build process. So you write comments. There's a special structure that you write your comments in, and it's not a crazy weird structure. It's still the kind of /* type of stuff that you expect to see. I think it's, I mean, JS docs. I mean, I'm primarily front end, so it's JS docs, I think it is. But you write your comments just as you would that make perfect sense. But the part of your CI pipeline is that it takes those comments, runs through all the files, takes the comments, and builds out a separate HTML site that just has all the functions and the classes and what they do and all the rest of it. So that might be something you look into, where you, because obviously the other way of doing it is to build out a wiki, whereas I feel like that's a lot of manual stuff. So maybe looking into, and I'm sure there's a PHP doc or probably something similar for WordPress, but having documentation that's written that makes sense to you is surely should be part of your definition of done, for sure. And I completely agree that you need documentation as you scale and all the rest of it on bigger projects. New people coming in, and all the rest of it. So for sure, that's the way I would do, or have done it in the past with regards to documentation. That's the least amount of overhead, and it doesn't take that long to implement the JS one. For, like I say, for our case, it was JS docs, but yeah. And I think I'm trying to think where that deploys to, whether that's, I think it's part of your WordPress website, but you'd have to, in your HT access, you'd have to kind of obviously block bot access to that and all the rest of it. But there'll be a specific way of doing it. But I think that sounds completely sound to me. I don't really have kind of much to add in terms of that. But with regards to like Git and, kind of Git processes, again, I just Git commit like after every kind of sort of feature, like not feature, but like when I feel like there's a checkpoint in the kind of code. Okay, right, if it was rearranging this component or whatever, when I've done that, I'll commit, or not necessarily push, but just commit or something like that. I think it's pretty good practice to be committing fairly regularly. Now, we haven't worked on a WordPress website in a long time, but are you using Docker?
No, we're not using Docker at all. No.
Okay, because this Docker makes it really efficient way to manage your themes in and versions in WordPress, and it means are you pushing WordPress up to Git?
Yes.
Ah, see, there we go. You won't need to push WordPress up to Git, because you just push your theme up to Git, and you have a Docker file that literally you run Docker and Docker. Do you know what Docker is? Have you heard of Docker?
Yeah.
Virtualization. So it downloads WordPress onto the local machine and then pipes the theme into the Docker container. That's a much more efficient way of working with. And then each person has their own local database then, so you don't push the database up. You don't have any kind of like conflicts there or anything like that. So you're just pushing the theme up to GitHub. And I don't know, again, like it does make the deployment process a little bit trickier. Are you using any kind of CI or CD pipelines at all?
No, not at the moment.
Yeah, so that, I mean, you could potentially, again with Docker, you can push up a containerized version of your WordPress basically, and then pull it down onto an EC2 or whatever it is you're doing. But basically, Dockerizing something just makes the whole process a lot more simpler, a lot more easier. But at the very least, you could use GitHub Actions to SSH into the EC2 or whatever, and just pull the code, git pull on the Git repo into the theme folder of your thing. But I mean, that's all technically advanced kind of stuff. But in terms of, it just makes your Git workflow a bit more manageable and a bit more, again, there's no need to push WordPress up to Git at all. You're not unless you're not changing any of the source files. The WordPress source files aren't changing. You're just changing your functions and your theme, and that's pretty much it, right?
So we just really actually need to push the theme folder and then the changes to the function file most of the time. So
yeah. So again, I think that would almost clean up and simplify I mean, once you push WordPress, you've pushed it then. So, it's not going to change or whatever. But it just might make the understanding and management and someone going into that folder, a bit more, it's a bit less of a kind of headache kind of going into it. But, I mean, yeah, it sounds like your Git process is fine. I wouldn't change a lot. The only thing, like I say, I would change is that Dockerization.
Cool. I'll definitely look into that and see how we can implement that into our process.
Yeah.
So quick question. So what technology, you had mentioned you'd worked on WordPress a while back. So what technology are you working on now?
Right now we are, I don't know if you've seen my YouTube channel where I'm using a lot of PineGrow at the moment. It's kind of like Webflow, but it's like on your local machine. And by the way, it's a great tool for WordPress theme development as well. It's really good for that.
Okay. I'll check it out.
Yeah, PineGrow is really, really good. And there might be an opportunity to bring that into their thing because they were going to use Webflow, but Webflow's so locked down, it's all on their server. I mean, I know you can export the code, but then why are you paying for Webflow at the end of the day? So PineGrow is like a no-code editor that is on your local machine. There might be an opportunity to kind of use that, but I'm using a lot of PineGrow at the moment just because a lot of I'm spinning up a lot of microsites as well. So that there's that. And we're waiting. I don't know where we are at the moment with it, but we're waiting to launch a website with Corning, which is a glass manufacturer, and they wanted this cool, snazzy kind of animated website. And that was using Next.js, which is a static site generator of React. So, yeah, I would like to move away from some of these frameworks because you've got to download Next.js, the library, before you load the website, or the website cannot function without this loading of this JavaScript library or whatever.
That would affect the performance, I believe, of
exactly,
the page.
Yeah. And so I'm kind of getting a bit tired of this, wanting to increase the performance of the website and all the rest of it. So I want to start looking into something like Svelte, which is it's a JavaScript framework like you would imagine, but it's compiled on your machine, so it generates static HTML, CSS, and vanilla JavaScript. There's no libraries or anything like that when it goes onto the server. So so Svelte or something to that effect would be kind of my goals for some of the next projects that we're working on. So yeah, it can vary. It just depends on the client. Productizing is obviously very good if you can say, right, we just use WordPress, but I just feel like there's a different tool for every solution that we're working with, But if you're getting the same clients, the same sort of work, then productizing, like you say, with the WordPress website just seems like a no-brainer, really.
Yeah, I mean, we're thinking about just looking at the market, like even on like Upwork and stuff like that. Page builders are like Webflow or like drag and drop builders. Like 90% of people want to use those sort of technologies, which is good. But like when you want to create custom solutions, it's difficult,
Yeah.
So WordPress kind of gives that flexibility of having that CMS and that dashboard that users can use, but we can also connect our APIs and work on the functions. But but I think we're considering about getting into some newer technologies as well.
Well, if WordPress is working for you, the only thing I would say is like be mindful of like plugins and try and lock down the CMS a bit, because you can customize the CMS and prevent the client like just installing plugin after plugin and whatever, and just being mindful that the more you add to it, the slower it's going to get. But you can build really fast, clean WordPress websites. It's just most people don't know how to, so it's got this reputation of being really slow and sluggish. So that's the only thing for those interested in WordPress. It's just there are ways and means, and security as well. You've got WordFence as a thing, or you've got your HT access to kind of block out anyone kind of snooping around the kind of the WordPress files basically, and all that kind of stuff. So it's just about maintenance really. But yeah, these page builders are attractive, but you can only go so far with them, especially with WordPress. You can only go so far with it, and people are starting to build web apps with it, but again, it's just a really it's all front end. You don't get back end API. Well, you can't build up any pre-generated content. You have to kind of go around it by firing off a webhook, which implements it into the CMS, and it just becomes a bit messy and whatever. But cool.
Yeah.
Should we wrap it up there then?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was super valuable. I really enjoyed that chat.
Nice. Is there anything, what was your kind of key takeaways from that? Is there anything that you're kind of eager to implement or change or do anything with that now?
Yeah, a couple of things. One really is to actually get my Scrum foundations. I mean, I have a very loose idea of it, and we've just been running our business without really pushing and being strict on that or any framework. So I think really getting down to, like you said, maybe pick up a book and actually get the theory and practically implement it, be more strict about how we run our sprints, and start from, I mean, that's the starting point, where like the first action point for me is be more strict on our sprints and go from there.
Yeah. And it's like I say, it's like a page or two. The Scrum framework's very light. It's something that, but I think there's a lot of these things that they're intentionally there to solve some of the issues that you're having specifically. So it just felt quite right there to recommend that. So and the only thing is, it's just it make it work for you, but it can feel like there's just lots of ceremonies, and it's like, oh, we've got sprint planning now. Oh God, can't be asked, and all this kind of stuff. But these things are there. Try it. If it works for you, keep going with it. If you start to see progress with that, if not, just maybe tailor it or make something that works. At the end of the day, it's just a framework for you to customize and whatever. But it'd be interesting to know if you do start to use that, and whether you do see an improvement. It would be good to catch up and
definitely
see what happens there. But cool,
awesome,
nice one, Prajin.
Yeah,
that was
absolutely.
A really good chat.
Yeah, it was. I really appreciate your time. It means a lot to me.
No worries. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your day then, and we'll catch up soon.
All right, Samuel. Thanks for that.
Take care. Bye bye.
Ciao. Bye.
So I hope you enjoyed that. That was, like I say, that was a section of a larger discussion, which I'll leave a link to here, where you can listen in on us talking all about kind of Agile and implementing Agile in his agency. If you are interested in learning more about Agile as well, I do have a free book that you can download at leanpub.com/Agile Lingo, Agile-Lingo. I'll leave a link below in the description. And I guess until next time, I'll see you around.